Welcome to Fancounters. My name's Nick.
And I'm Elizabeth.
And you can follow us on Twitter at Fancounters Live. We also just launched a Facebook group that's private so that you can have all the discussions with me and Elizabeth on our episodes. And you can search Facebook. Sharpie Nation is the name of the group. Just, I think you have to be approved to join, but I approve everybody.
Yeah.
So it's not a problem. Just request to join and you'll be in. Now, this week on the program, we've got another star of Love After Lockup from season 1. We're going to be talking to Johnna on today's episode. But first, Elizabeth has something she just has to get off her chest. What is that, Elizabeth?
Oh, my goodness. So, as all of you know, we tape in Wisconsin. And most of the country has been experiencing a winter vortex. And we are up to 5 days of missed school.
That's right.
And I believe they had only built in 1 day, maybe 2.
Mm-hmm.
Now, here in our school district, we typically have what's called early release Thursdays. So the kids are all out an hour early each Thursday. And starting in April, we will lose that extra hour, which is great because I always forget and I'm out somewhere and I'm like, oh my gosh, I've got kids getting off the bus. So I'm thrilled that we're going to lose early release Thursday and we're going to lose it permanently starting next year. But the last couple of days that we have had off, our school district has decided that the children are to do virtual school. Now, if I had signed up my child to do actual virtual school, that would be different. But what this means is at 8 o'clock in the morning, my son, who is a 7th grader, is emailed by every teacher. And he is required to do a 70 minute class at my home. So
that sounds convenient.
Well, let me tell you how that works. The first one that came across the board was gym.
Uh-huh.
And
so does being on the Wii count?
No. We had to do all these yoga poses and all these stretches, take pictures of him doing them.
No way.
They have to prove that they have done everything. Take pictures of them doing them, upload the pictures, and then click in the classroom that we have completed this course. Now, throughout the day, my son does have an IEP, because most of you know that Oliver has Asperger's. And so they were sending out these mass emails that were obviously designed for the entire class, right?
Yep.
And so everyone that came out, we would have to send another email that would say, okay, now what is Oliver's role in this, right?
Right.
One particular class that he was supposed to annotate or kind of like dissect 3 articles. And Oliver kept saying, but Mom, I only have to do 1. But Mom, I only have to do 1. And I must have emailed that teacher like first thing when I saw that he had emailed us, and it took him all day to get back to us. And I was like, I was under the impression that these teachers were supposed to be standing by, right? Because I am now the official teacher. I am now the one who is spending 70 minutes in science and 70 minutes in math.
What kind of salaries?
I don't know. That's Mark, my husband, was so livid because he had to take off yesterday because I am really, truly not authorized to do science or math.
Neither would I be.
I'm authorized to do social studies and ELA. And so Mark couldn't go to work because literally he spent over 3 hours doing science and math. And I believe that he was so enraged that he sent the principal an email saying, I will demand, this is what my hourly rate is. You now owe me this amount of money.
Did he get an email back?
Not to my knowledge.
Oh,
but
if he does, you have to update us.
I don't understand why the school thinks. Now, I don't want to go extra days in the summer, but I don't understand why. If I'd wanted my kid to go to virtual school, I'd have signed my kid up for virtual school. And I also don't understand why you don't put him in some sort of webinar. Like, why is the teacher not telling us and doing all this, and we're just watching the video? And so it was a very difficult day because my son does not want to do school. And my daughter, who technically did not have to do school, wanted to do school. And so I'm arguing between the two of them as my daughter is trying to tell me the story she's writing for writing class while my son is arguing with me about writing his for ELA. So I just need to say I am against virtual school if I have not actually enrolled my child in virtual school.
That's understandable.
So we need these snow days to end because my understanding is we've got 2 more days that were supposed to be days off of our schedule that will be virtual school days to make up.
Oh, you get more fun then.
Yeah, so this is coming down the pike again.
Wow.
Yeah, super excited.
Well, the only thing that hurts us about snow days is we already get out a week after the public schools. So if we have 3 more days, we're like into the literally the middle of June, like the 15th, 16th of June. Come on. And then we go back in like right before the end of August. So they get like 7 weeks of summer.
Oh my gosh, we never start until after Labor Day.
Oh yeah, we're always before. Okay, we got to get to today's show. I really appreciate your story though. From the first season of Love After Lockup, we've got Johnna on the show. And if you remember Johnna, she had a boyfriend who didn't like being under her control. And so we're going to find out all about that on the show today.
Coming to you from nowhere near the entertainment capital of the world, this is Fancounters with Nick and Elizabeth on the PodFix network.
There was this mob of people, and they're screaming my name.
Crazy fans.
Stop following me. Don't come around my house. If you do, the cops are going to be at yours.
If I'm having dinner with my wife, don't sit down at my table. Don't follow me into the bathroom.
Can I take a picture? We're going to, oh my God.
I think this guy wants to fight me. Ended up being a fan.
I'm the only one that's ever been on Sam Jackson and lived to tell about it.
Well, guess what? I have a big surprise for you.
That's why we call it Fancounters.
I don't think you're going to last on the air very long.
Johnna, welcome to Fancounters. Thanks for being here.
Oh, thank you for having me. I'm excited.
You bet. Now, as our audience already knows, because Lizzie was here last week, I have not missed a moment of either season of Love After Lockup. So I kind of want to start at the beginning of your story. How did you and Garrett first find out about each other or get together? Like, where does that story start?
So Garrett and I actually knew each other as kids. And I think that gets a little lost in the show. But yeah, like I didn't meet him on a pen pal website. Did I write him in jail? Yes, but it wasn't through a pen pal website. It was from knowing him prior.
At what point do you start getting involved with the show? When did they come into this part of your relationship?
So when the show reached out to me, Garrett and I had already been together for quite some time. I want to say like 3.5 years. They came to me when he had about 8 months left in his sentence. And they just saw my picture on Facebook with him. I was also really involved in the prison wife community. They saw me in groups. They saw our pictures. And someone reached out to me and said, would you want to be on a docuseries about love after prison, blah, blah, blah. And I said, yeah, sure, whatever. And here we are.
Wow. Now, you were seeing Garrett for about 4 years or so before he was released. How many times did you actually go see him in prison?
I saw Garrett pretty much every weekend throughout that time. Of course, once in a while I would take a weekend off if, I had something to do. But the only other time I wouldn't go see him is if he was in trouble and didn't have visits, which probably was a total of maybe 12 weekends I didn't see him, if that, out of 4 years.
4 years, right.
Locked up.
Now, did you guys spend some time talking about, because obviously once you're on the show and he gets released, things are moving very quickly for you as far as let's get married or look at rings and all that. Like you wanted that ring right away. Did you guys talk about what life was going to be like once he was released from prison? Did you both want the same things when he was still in?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, when you're in that situation, I always used to say it's not like a normal relationship outside of prison because you have things building up to that last commitment of let's get married. You can take your first weekend trip together, all those things, like building up, meeting the family, whatever. Like I already knew his family, but our only thing that we really had to look forward to that he could offer me in prison was when I get out of here, I'm going to marry you. And that's what they all say. But you always think you're going to be the exception, right? So when he was in prison, he introduced me to people as his wife. He would get little rings made for me that he would propose to me in visit. And I would always say, no, that's, I need a big thing when you propose, but the sentiment is sweet. Thank you. like, he was just as crazy about me as I was about him, if not more. And that has a lot to do with the fact that he had nothing else to really focus on. My dad always used to say captive audience.
Right.
So he definitely sold me a dream. But the thing is, what people seem to think that they know him just from watching him on TV for a total of maybe, an hour or two of footage, is like he wanted that when he was in there. And then when he got out and realized, oh, wow, there's a big world out here, he changed his mind. So despite what everyone thinks that, oh, he used me, he played me, whatever, like that, I don't believe that. I believe that he truly thought he wanted the suburban life until he got out and got back with the old crowd and realized, like, no, I actually don't want that. I want to be in the streets with my friends.
And I can totally understand that, because even last week when I was talking with Lizzie and I said, you know, by the time you got out, like, you saw the scene, she went crazy at that gas station because it was like, wow, free world. I can have all the stuff that I didn't get to have. And I'm not just talking about food. In Garrett's mind, he could go out again and he could do all these things that he, missed for the last however many years. And I think that could really be overwhelming to be able to go from, being watched to complete freedom. I have no idea, like, what that would even be like.
That being said, I do not know if people understand this either, but his first 3 months out, he was actually in a drug program. And that meant that multiple days a week, he had to wake up early, go to a drug treatment, like an outpatient drug treatment program, get tested, and if he were to show up with drugs or even alcohol, there was a chance he would go back to jail. So for his first 3 months out, the guy was perfect. He was the boyfriend I had always dreamed of, the guy that he promised he would be, even insulting other people who got out and went right back to their old ways. Like, I can't believe they would do that, whatever. The day that he got out of that drug program, when he graduated, was the night that he didn't come home on the show.
See, when we're led to believe that was like first or second night home, but that really was much further after. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, it was 3 months later, and I don't even remember it being, I was drunk when I watched the show, so I didn't even realize that they tried to make it seem like it was his second night home. But yeah, that was 3 months later. It was the day, and if people would follow along, they would catch things like that, because it happened right before my birthday, which is July 1st, and his release date was March 24th.
Okay.
So, I'm not trying to fool anybody. They can see all of this progress on my Instagram. But yeah, he got out in March, and then that incident was the day before my birthday, literally the day he finished his drug program. And that's when everything just went downhill. There's
a lot of things. Again, we talked about how much footage there is, and you have to consolidate that into a story that's going to be something people want to watch. So I kind of get how some of these things have to be presented, but we don't always know what the timeline is. I mean, we were watching some stuff that's happening now on this season that was obviously taken in summer. Well, we've been in winter now for months, so it's hard for us to visualize what that timeline really was.
Yeah, definitely. And I get that, because I watch shows, and because I've been behind the scenes and I know what it's like, I wonder I wonder what the timeline is. And I ask more questions now than when I was just a regular viewer.
Right.
I just believed everything I saw and didn't ask questions. Not really so much believe, but just went with the storyline and didn't think anything outside of that happened.
Well, I want to jump to things that did happen in the very first episode of the show. These are scenes that you couldn't pay me enough money to be a part of, but you visited a lingerie shop with a friend and posed in some very skimpy lingerie. Were you worried about that airing on television, or what were you thinking in that moment of allowing cameras to follow you there?
So that was actually my idea. I was thinking of something fun that I could do pre his release that would be interesting for viewers, and also something that my friend could like a girlfriend could come with me, that was more interesting than just us sitting on the couch or going out to dinner.
Right.
And I needed to get something sexy anyway for, his first night home. And so I suggested that. We went, and I did not plan on trying anything on, but when they suggested it, I just went with it. I am pretty open and transparent. I don't really have like any kind of, oh, what will they think of me type of thing going on at all.
Okay.
And my dad, I knew he would just like, oh, it's for the show,
You knew I was going to go there because that's the one person I thought that you might be concerned with, the reaction that you would get from him.
Yeah, no. Him and I are very close, and he knows that, I do things like that. So it wasn't too much of a shock to him. Maybe the shower scene was a little bit much for him. I know it was a lot for Garrett's grandmother.
Oh, man. It's funny
Yeah.
when you, there's a clip of you watching that scene, probably from Austin, and like a reunion thing. I'm not sure what exactly the show was, but you're like, oh my God, was that on TV? We were all like, yep, it was.
I didn't really remember that. And like I said, when I watched the show, I was drunk because I had to be. It was so hard for me to watch. I was fresh out of the breakup, and it wasn't even public that I was single again. And here I am watching myself on TV, and I had totally forgotten that there was a sex scene.
Yeah. Now, going to back to the first time that you saw Garrett out of prison and you got to kind of interact with him without being watched and supervised and all that, was he the way you expected him to be? Or did he change the moment he left the gate?
No, like I said, the first 3 months were everything that we talked about, everything we planned for. There were a few hiccups like any couple would have, but he was on the right path. He was going to job interviews. He was making money. He was not doing anything illegal. We were talking about eventually getting engaged, all of that stuff. And everything was really, really great for those first 3 months. He was everything he promised he would be.
And your dad was skeptical from the start about that relationship. Did he ever come around to appreciating Garrett for who he was and the strides he was taking to live a good life?
Yeah, he did. And there was a time in that 3 months, like I said, everything changed after that, where, Garrett and my dad would grab lunch together without me. Like I'd be at work and they'd go grab lunch together once a week. They'd always go somewhere different. And, my dad would treat him to lunch. And their little deal was my dad would pay for lunch. Garrett takes care of the tip.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
Did those weird scenes that we talked about, the shower scene and the lingerie scene, did that have any repercussions of your personal life once it aired? Like, did you get any flack at work or anything like that where you're like, oh my God, I can't believe I did that?
No. So at the time, the company I was working for was a small company. It was, ran by a husband and wife. And I was very, very close with the wife. I still am very close with her. And she knew everything I was doing. She'd always been super supportive of my relationship in general, super supportive of me doing the show. And I knew that they would not be bothered by that at all.
And you mentioned you were drinking during each episode as it aired. But there's always those moments when an interview plays or an interaction that Garrett might have with a friend or something at a restaurant where you're hearing his conversations firsthand for the first time. Did anything ever catch you off guard or surprise you? Like, oh my God, I can't believe he said that to his friend. Because lots of times we'll say things knowing that it's not like your verbatim isn't going to get back to the person you're talking about. So did anything catch you off guard?
No. And that's because he would tell me. And anything that happened when I wasn't there, he would tell me. He was very honest with me and would tell me hey, just so you know, when I was at the bar earlier, there was this girl there and she came over and started hitting on me, flirting with me. So I just don't want you to see that on TV and be all freaked out. And I'm like, okay. So, he would give me a heads up. And honestly, I didn't really think anything he said to me or said about me, at least in season 1, not the update. The update's a whole nother story, but things he said in season 1, nothing really caught me off guard. you know, there were things that we said to each other. We definitely had an open relationship where we said what was on each other's minds. There was no hiding our feelings. That was for sure.
The season ended, for those listeners who might not have seen the whole thing, with him having a wedding set up for you on the beach. You were very honest with him. This was not your ideal wedding without your dad and without everybody that was in your family. So the wedding didn't end up happening on the show. And in fact, I believe at the very end of it, it said that you guys had broken up. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. But things ended dramatically for you guys because various websites reported that he was found to be cheating on you with a bartender at a strip club, and things went public. In fact, your social media posts were posted on various websites and stuff. I guess police even showed up at your door at 1 a.m. one night looking for Garrett's new love interest. That's crazy that they would use your address. Can you tell us why the police might have thought that she was there?
Yeah, so let's back up a bit because I feel like a lot of people are misinformed, and because this wasn't on TV, I can definitely tell the real truth. Garrett and I broke up because he would not change his ways. Once that drug program finished and he had complete freedom, other than probation, check-in once a month, he was a different person. And I kept telling him, I don't like this, please stop. And he would tell me that he was going to stop, but then he wouldn't. And it just kept getting worse, and to the point where he was always with his friends, and it made me feel like I was a chore to him. So, you know, we made a rule that he was allowed, and I feel bad saying allowed, but with someone like him, there needs to be structure. You know, he's allowed to go to the strip club and stay out all night if he wants to, once a month. And that's even a lot for me because that's not the lifestyle I wanted. He never told me that's what he wanted to do. So I felt like me saying once a month, go out and stay out as long as you want. I'll pop a sleeping pill and go to bed, so I'm not worried about you. And that will be like your release. Go do it. And, you know, that happened for a few months. And then one night he just upset me so much. I kind of was having I was bluffing. I said, I need you to get out, get your shit together, and don't come back until you know where your priorities are. I thought that would scare him and have him coming back in 2 to 3 days.
Right.
But it didn't. So we had a few more conversations until we had a really powerful one where we were both crying and realized this isn't going to work. And we ended things. In my head, I was thinking he needs some time, a couple months, and then we're going to get back on track. But he needs that time to figure himself out without me. So that's why we broke up in my head until I found out about his new girlfriend, and they're still together now, I believe. So basically how I found out about her is that after we were broken up, I get a letter, or I get like 10 letters in the mail from attorneys all looking for the same girl. And at first I was like, oh, it must be a wrong address. But then I started thinking about it more, and I'm like, but why 10 different attorneys sending it to this address? That's weird.
Yeah.
So, and at this point, Garrett and I were still cordial. So, and I had no idea that there was any other girl at all. So I look her up online because, you know, I'm familiar at this point with how to navigate a jail website.
Sure.
I look her up online and I see that her place of employment is a strip club that he frequents. So I call him and I say, who the F is, and I say her whole name. And he's like, I don't know.
Oh,
and I'm
no.
like, don't play stupid with me, because I will call your probation officer, which I would never do. But I wanted him to be honest with me.
Right.
And he was like, I don't know who it is. So I hang up on him and I call the police station just to see if they'll tell me. But then he's blowing me up on the other line trying to figure out, oh my gosh, I'm a probation officer.
Yeah.
So then he comes up with this whole story of how he was with his friend and that this girl was his friend's friend and whatever, that she ended up getting arrested and she didn't have an ID. So he had to give her ours or something. I don't even remember what he said because it was so long ago, but it was complete bull. But because he had never lied to me before that I knew of, I believed him. And then the way I found out that she was actually his girlfriend was I still had his Instagram account linked to mine, and I had forgotten about it. So I could like switch between, because basically what would happen is he'd post pictures and spell things wrong in the captions, and it would embarrass me. So I would go in there and edit his captions so that he didn't look like a complete idiot.
Okay.
At that time, I saw messages coming through from her saying, I love you. Mind you, we had only been broken up not even a month. I love you. Can't wait to see you, blah, blah, blah. And at that point, I just shut down. Like, I didn't even cry. I was just so upset because I felt, if you're already saying I love you, obviously this has been going on for longer than we've been broken up. It just really showed me a whole nother side of him. So he, of course, we ended up meeting up and talking about it. And he was like, I never cheated on you. I was just, she was just someone fun to help me get over us. And it just turned into something more, blah, blah, blah. But like, it was all lies, 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 because he just, I guess, didn't want to hurt my feelings. But then like a couple weeks later, she was messaging me saying crazy stuff. And the police came by looking for her because she had a warrant out for her arrest for not showing up to court. And that's because when she got arrested, she put my address down. So,
do you think Garrett gave her the address?
Absolutely. I think that, I mean, that's the only way she would know it.
Right.
I think, and also he bailed her out. So, I try to have understanding of it, but it just felt so disrespectful to me, and I don't think I could ever forgive him for that, because it's just like, why am I having to deal with cops at 1 a.m.
Right.
because your girlfriend is getting arrested?
Now, let me clarify. Do you think that he cheated on you? Was he with her while he was with you? Do you believe that?
I do think that now. I do think that now. I didn't at first, but later, what I'm trying to say is I didn't want people to think we broke up because I found out he cheated, because that's not the case.
Okay.
We broke up because of issues in our relationship and him not wanting to change his ways and me not wanting to change mine. There was like no way to compromise. I didn't know he was cheating on me until later, but my theory is that he met her, he really liked her, and in order to be with her, he knew he had to get rid of me, but he didn't want to be the one to end it, so he did all the bad things besides let me know he was cheating on me to have me end it with him so he could be with her freely.
And which is why even after a month passed, you were hurt because you realized all this stuff was going on and you didn't even know it.
Yeah. And there's no telling how long they were actually talking, and on the update, he said that he cheated on me multiple times. And, I don't know how true that is. I don't know if he's trying to look cool. I really don't know, because it makes me question like my own intuition, because I genuinely had no idea. And, sorry to go off on a tangent, but one thing that really broke me was my mom called me after she watched the update and was in tears because she loved Garrett. And one night I was accusing him of cheating. He came home like 7 a.m. I was accusing him of cheating, and I called my mom, hysterical crying. He's hysterical crying, and my mom's like, put Garrett on the phone. She talks to him, and he says, I love your daughter more than anything in the world. I would never cheat on her. You know that. And he's in tears, and it was just so believable.
Yeah.
And so when my mom watched him say that and admit to the national television that he cheated on me multiple times, and this was towards the end of our relationship, that he said he would never, it made all of us question, like, our judge of character, like I said, our intuition, like, are we all fools? Because what people fail to realize is Garrett didn't just play me. He played my family. And the only interaction they got to see was with my dad. But obviously my other family members met him. You know, we had an engagement party. Like, there was a few people who were like, I don't know about this guy. But for the most part, my friends loved him. My family loved him. He, you know, fooled us all, not just me.
And who knows if this is going to happen again with this current girl, which is the sad part.
No.
If he's so good.
No, that's not going to happen. It's not going to happen again.
Well, not
I
with
think
you.
That they are.
Oh, you think they're solid?
No. I think, I mean, I don't know if they're solid, but I think that they are much more on the same level. Of like, they want the same things out of life. His issue with me was that I wasn't letting him do the things he wanted to do, whereas she will let him do that, and she will do it with him. You know, you're not going to catch me at the strip club multiple times a week till God knows what time in the morning, smoking, drinking, doing whatever. They enjoy doing that together, and that's why they are good together. And as much as he hurt me, everyone deserves to find happiness. So good for him.
Because, you know, you came off on the show as somebody who was more of a person that wanted to settle down. You wanted kind of things in balance. You wanted that normal 9-to-5 life where you both come home and you hang out and you go out to dinner together and you do date night and all this stuff, and maybe having kids and that kind of thing. I mean, is that kind of where you were at that time? I mean, were you looking forward to that kind of life?
That's where I was. That's what I was looking forward to, and that's what he told me he wanted. And I see comments of people saying that I'm crazy for expecting this from him, but, like, that's the norm. That's what people want. I'm not crazy for thinking that someone I've been with for years who told me that's what they wanted wants that.
Right. Why would you expect
it's not like I
anything
made
else?
this up in my head.
So you've obviously moved on from Garrett, and you've even moved to Austin from Tampa, and we're going to talk about that in a little bit. But how did you leave things? I mean, obviously that reunion thing was really spicy and kind of, you know, once you saw that refueled you, I'm sure. But where do you stand today?
We haven't seen or spoken to each other, and the last time I saw or spoke to him was right before I left for Austin. I had a bunch of his documents, like Social Security, birth certificate, prison stuff that he needed. I didn't know where he lived. We weren't in contact over phone. I was blocked on social media, and I was like, you know what? I'm just going to bring him to his work. And I knew it would probably ruffle the new girlfriend's feathers, but you know what? My feathers were ruffled 10 times as much from her. So I dropped the stuff off, and I saw him, and he said, oh, thank you. And I was like, you're welcome. And he was like, how are you? And I'm like, I'm doing great. I'm moving to Texas. And he was like, oh, like, I had told him I was doing that, but I don't think he believed me until I said I'm doing it. Mm-hmm. And then I said, how are you? And he said, you know how I am. I make the best out of any situation, which is true about him. But for in that moment, I was like, oh, so you're just making the best out of your situation? Like, haha, you deserve to be miserable after what you put me through. And I don't even mean the cheating or the deceit or the lying. I mean the betrayal of allowing her to use the social media platform that I gave them to disrespect me. Because in my head, I'm thinking, if it wasn't for me, you would have never been on this show. You wouldn't have all these followers, and you wouldn't be able to have people to talk about me to. All the opportunity I gave you, you're now using it against me and allowing this girl who you just met to bash me, who was there for years. And it's just like, I thought, despite us falling out of love, he would have a little bit more respect for me than that. Mm-hmm. And I think that was the hardest part for me, was accepting that he didn't have any respect for me at all. Especially
giving up 4 years of your life waiting for him. It's worth something, if nothing but respect. So I agree with that.
Exactly. Yeah. So, you know, that for me was the hardest part. You know, people fall out of love, people cheat, all kinds of crazy things happen in relationships. But I just, even with my other exes, I have that level of respect where I would never just go around bashing them and trying to ruin them when they did nothing to hurt me. I didn't do anything to hurt him. And I've come out and said, like, I cheated when he was in prison. And that moment when I admitted that to him is when I felt like before I told him that, he felt guilty for what he did. But the second that I admitted to him that I cheated on him while he was in prison, he had all the justification he needed to just shit all over me.
Did you feel a sense of that it would have been necessary to tell him that while you were seeing him? Like, that never came up while you guys were visiting? Like, hey, I slipped up and I, hooked up with somebody or something like that? Like, those conversations never happened between Garrett before that moment when you told him you had cheated on him?
So, no. Did he ask? Did he accuse? Did he have feelings? Absolutely. Did I deny till I died? Yeah.
Okay.
I never slept with anybody else. I just did things that were not appropriate, like that if he did, I would be upset. So I really, truly will always stick to this. I did not have sex with anybody while he was in prison. Even when he was out of prison, like when he was out of prison, I didn't cheat on him at all.
Mm-hmm.
So I just had a few slip-ups, and I never told him because they didn't mean anything to me, but obviously I was lonely, and they all happened when he was in solitary confinement, which means no letters, no phone calls, no visits.
Right.
And then it's like, I can't even have any kind of communication with you, and I would mess up. And I felt like if I told him, all it would do is cause fights. And a lot of times I feel, and I don't know, everybody has like a different take on this, but someone once told me that when you tell somebody you love that you cheated on them, it hurts them, and you do it to like make yourself feel better, like to get that off your conscience.
Right, but it does nothing for that person except...
Yeah, all it would do is hurt him, and he's already in prison, worried about these things, and it would have been selfish of me to say, hey, like, I know you're already worried about these things, and you're right, I am doing that, because now he's in prison already stressed out, and now he has to worry about me being with other men.
Let's talk about some happier things. Let's
Okay.
Unless you wanted to hit on anything else, but our audience, we're really curious to find out kind of where you are right now in your life, and find out some other fun questions. So you're in Austin now, and I know that following your social media, you didn't necessarily have a job before you moved there, but you were going to kind of figure it out when you got there. Did things settle down for you rather quickly upon getting to Austin?
Yeah, so one thing about me is that I interview really well. So I've never applied for a job and didn't get offered the position. And that's just something I don't know why that is, but it is what it is. So I was pretty confident that moving to Austin without a job, I'd be able to find one pretty quickly. And I was right. I moved there on a Thursday. I had my first job interview on a Monday, and I got offered the job that Wednesday and started the next Monday.
Wow, that is very quick. And did they recognize you from the show or know anything about you prior?
No.
Even better.
Nobody at that first job. I've had 2 jobs since living in Austin. So nobody at that first job recognized me. And then my second job, nobody recognized me at first. And then one day a girl that was sitting behind me was like, oh my God, I just realized who you are.
Has it been hard to kind of get reestablished with finding friends and people to go out and hang out with? Or are you pretty social where that happened fast for you?
Oh, no, I have tons of friends. I would say that everything in my life is pretty much the same or better. The only thing the show has really affected for me is dating.
And how so? Like, people are not trusting of you, or how's it affecting you?
Well, I definitely think that there's a few factors. So one is I think people look down on me for dating an inmate. And no matter how much I, try to show them who I really am and, whatever, they have this idea of me because I dated an inmate. another thing is a lot of guys don't like, at least the ones that I've gone on dates with, aren't really into being in the spotlight. And at this point, anyone I date is going to be subject to that same spotlight. You know, I get picked on, and so I just know if I ever posted a picture with a guy, he's automatically, by my friends, followers, fans, whatever, going to be compared to Garrett. Like, oh, who's better looking? Is this an upgrade or a downgrade?
Ooh, yeah.
And
I didn't even
if
think of
there's
that.
anything wrong with, yeah, they're definitely going to do that. And then on top of that, if there is something that maybe they think is not good about him, they're going to say it. And a lot of guys don't want that. They don't want to be put in the spotlight and judged so harshly by a bunch of people they don't know. So that makes it tough for me. I don't know. It's been really tough for me. I've gone on dates and it seems to be going well, and then my mom's like, you got to be honest and tell people about it because you don't want to keep it from them.
Right.
And then it's also hard because in this day and age, like, one of the first questions you ask somebody is, what's your Instagram?
Exactly. Yep.
So then they go on mine and they're like, why the hell do you have 30,000 followers? And I'm like, oh.
Well, it was on a little TV show, but don't ask the name.
Yeah.
So that's challenging. So there's no man out there right now in your life.
There's no consistent man. You know, I am on dating apps. I've gone on dates. I've met guys out that, you know, catch my interest, but nothing sticks. And, you know, that sucks. It sucks because sometimes I'm just like, who cares if I was on a show? Like, whatever. But at the same time, I have to be understanding because I don't necessarily know that I would want to put myself out there to be ridiculed. I wouldn't have had I known how awful people could be to people on reality TV.
And any kind of TV show, people just get so crazy and worked up about what they're watching that they have to rip it all apart. And of course, it's a safe way to do it from your basement and on a little computer, and picking on people.
Yeah, definitely.
You have made a lot of personal transformations, moving on from Garrett, you know, obviously adapting to your new situation in Texas, but you've also lost a lot of weight between November of 2017 and July of 2018. You look fabulous. So
thank you.
People are obviously going to want to know, what weight loss program did you use, or what worked for you that made such a big change in your life?
I wish that I could tell you guys something more encouraging than this, but it was depression.
Oh.
I mean, I laugh at it now, but like at the time, you know, not only was my heart broken, at first, you know, it started in November with just heartbreak. Then towards the end of December, I found out about the deceit and the other girl. And then the show airs in January, and I'm being constantly bullied, ridiculed, harassed, called names. And that goes on through March-ish. And I lost all that weight because I was so stressed out. I was not eating as much as I should. And I was just sleeping all the time. So I wish I could say, oh, you know, I started eating better and I went to the gym, but it was honestly just an emotional, like, detox, I guess. I don't know. It was just, you know, I kind of joke around now. I'm like, because I've gained some weight after working at my new job because we get free food. And I joke around with my friends. I'm like, all right, can someone break my heart again? I need to lose another 15 pounds.
So how much was that initial weight loss?
I think it was about 15 pounds. I don't even have a scale, so I don't know. I just could see the difference.
Oh, big time.
In my body. So for me, you know, a lot of good came out of what happened. I ended up loving my body again. I was very insecure when I was with him because he is very attractive. And I don't know what he looks like anymore, but when I was with him, I found him attractive. And, you know, when you get in a relationship, a lot of times you get content and you get happy and you gain weight because you don't really feel like you need to be impressing anyone. And that's definitely what happened for me. I was like, oh, I'm engaged. Like, who the hell do I need to impress? He loves me unconditionally. And, you know, I don't think he left me because of my weight, but I definitely at first felt, oh my gosh, who's going to want me? I'm so fat now. And I really wasn't like huge, but I did lose a good amount of weight. And when I first moved to Austin, it definitely brought out my confidence.
Now, I want to talk about some of these times that you might have run into people that have recognized you. On Fancounters, our hook is that each guest gets to talk about their crazy or weird or fun fan encounters that they have experienced. So do you have any times that you've met a fan that you'll never forget?
I have a few. The most recent one was actually Saturday. I was in the bathroom at a bar in Austin, and a woman was washing her hands, and she turns around and she looks at me. She's like, "You look really familiar. Where do I know you from?" And my drunk friend with me goes, "She was on TV."
Oh.
And she's like, "Oh, my God, that's what it is. You were on TV. The Life After Lockup." A lot of people don't even remember the name. It's funny to me. And I'm like, "Yeah, Love After Lockup." And she's like, "Oh, my gosh, are you guys still together?" And I was like, "No, we broke up a long time ago." And she's like, "Well, good for you. You were too good for him anyways." And I was like, "Okay." I was like, "Yeah, thank you." So then she leaves, and I go to the bathroom. When I come out, she's waiting outside of the bathroom for me to take a selfie.
At least she
And I'm
waited
like,
outside
okay.
the bathroom. We have a lot of people who get approached in the bathroom, and it's like, that's the one place people don't want to have conversations with you.
Well, no, it was in the bathroom. It was just not in the stall.
Well, right, but to take a selfie, yeah.
Yeah, so and that was my most recent one. But I've had some pretty cool ones where one time I was getting drinks with some friends and sitting at a table, and these two sisters, probably like in their 40s or whatever, sat down, and I could tell that they were looking at me, but I didn't know if it was my outfit or what, because Love After Lockup wasn't as popular when I was on it as it is now.
Right.
So they leaned over and they were like, "Oh my God, you're her." And I'm like, and I already knew what they were talking about. I was like, "Yeah." And they're like, "We did like this trip where you can sign up, and then they just send you somewhere random." And when we found out it was Austin, our first thought was like, "I hope we run into Johnna." And that was like pretty cool, because it's like you never think you're going to be somebody that people hope they run into in another city. So I'm super cool about talking to people, taking pictures with them. Even when I look a mess, I'll still take a picture. I'll ask them to put a filter, but I like being approached, so I don't mind it at all.
Have you have any weird ones where you got creeped out, or has everybody been pretty cool?
In person, I've never been creeped out. I have, weirdos in my messages that kind of scare me. For one, I have this one gentleman who has messaged me on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, my personal email, and my work email. So
Wow.
That's 6 different platforms he's messaged me on, and he doesn't stop with one message. He's messaged me multiple times, and in my head I'm thinking, can he just not take a hint?
Is he
Like,
asking you
I haven't
out?
answered on any of these. I don't know what he wants. He says call me and gives me his number, and I don't want to call him.
Right.
And I feel like there's this stigma, I guess, that just because I was on TV, I owe everybody that wants to talk to me the time of day. And that's not fair, because I get a lot of messages, and just because I was on TV, I feel like they think that I should call them and give them a chance or something, like to take me out. But I almost feel like if you watched that show and want to take me out after that, what's wrong with you?
I don't want to be with you. Right.
Yeah, like, what are you crazy? Like, did you see it? Whether or not that was a fair portrayal of me is irrelevant. That's all you know about me.
Right.
And you want to take me out? And then I almost feel like they think I'm desperate because I dated him, so they think that they have a chance. Because most women aren't just going to answer some weirdo they don't know's DM and say, "Yeah, let's go out, fly me to New Mexico, wherever the hell you are." But like, they think that because I dated an inmate, automatically like they're in.
Yeah.
And that's not the case at all. I'm actually one of the most picky people out there.
Well, that takes a lot of work to find 6 different spots to contact you, like a personal email address and a home or work address. Those are not like easy things to figure out, I wouldn't imagine. So he did some work there, which is kind of creepy.
Yeah, and then I've had other creepers. Like, I had a guy text me. He actually texted my dad, and my dad was like, "Hey, some guy's looking for you. He said he's from California and saw you on the show." Then he texted me and was like, oh, you know, and I'm like, how do these people have my number?
Yeah.
And it really weirds me out because I'm not like someone that has security or anything around me, you know,
Right.
like the big stars who have people trying to find them. And then I don't know how deep you follow me on Instagram, but I had a prisoner write me a month or so ago.
Nope, I missed that one. Wow.
Yeah, he wrote me a letter and was just like describing himself and telling me that he is an orderly at the prison and that he had internet access and watched the show and thought it was beautiful. And, you know, so now I'm like, okay, so now because I dated one inmate who I, you know, grew up with in a way, everybody thinks that they have a shot, and it bothers me.
So since you have been on this show, though, have you gotten a chance to meet other celebrities that maybe you've been starstruck by?
So in Austin, there are other reality TV people that live here, and I'm not sure if everyone's familiar with Are You the One?
I don't know that
but
one.
Two of the girls from season 6 of that show live in Austin. They're a bit younger than me, but they're roommates, and I ran into one of them out at a bar, and we ended up chatting, and we follow each other on Instagram now, and she's super cool. The only other person that I've ran into since being on the show is Garrett from Siesta Key.
Okay.
And we talked for like 2 minutes, and I was a little starstruck by him. And I was like, you're way hotter than the Garrett that I dated. But I was just being funny at the time. But yeah, so those are the only two that I've met, and you know, since being on the show.
And you've never met any of the other stars of the season you were on of Love After Lockup, right?
No, I met all of the people who waited. So I met Mary, Scott, Andrea, Angela, and James.
Okay. There's so much to talk about with all of these stories, but have you been watching the current season?
So I watched a couple episodes. I don't have cable, and I try to watch it on my WETV app, but it always seems to have lag, and I just don't have the patience for it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm hoping that one day they'll put Love After Lockup on Netflix or Hulu or something, so you know, more people can watch it that don't have cable. But I've only seen a few episodes, and you know, I don't really know those people. I don't know their stories, and I don't like to talk crap because obviously I know how that feels.
Right.
But it just seemed like a lot of these people were dating for a much shorter period of time than what I was.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, are they doing this to get on the show, or are they actually like in love with this person?
Yeah, I've wondered about that motivation, especially this season.
Yeah, and like obviously, you know, the one girl that got married and has a baby with him, I don't think that she obviously did it to get on the show because that's, you know, the show wasn't even around when she had the child. But other ones, I'm just like, did you want to be on the show, or did you really like happen to fall for an inmate and then come across Love After Lockup? And then I have to wonder, why would you want to be on that show? Did you see what some of us went through? Like, I mean, I would say that I probably definitely had the worst backlash from it in a way, because obviously, you know, Mary and Dom are happily married, and Andrea is pretty private on social media. She doesn't do much. Scott, I don't even think was on it until recently. I think I just got a friend request from him. And James is active, but, you know, I think him and all are back together. So I was really the only one who had like the really, really bad breakup and had to deal with all the like horrific stuff.
Yeah,
so
I agree.
I guess that's why, to me, it's like, why would you want to be on this show?
If they knew what you knew, they might not.
Yeah, and I think I talked to Caitlin a few times before the show even came out, and I gave her some advice. I was like, you don't know what is gonna end up being aired. We film so much, and you just never know.
Mm-hmm.
But just remember, like, screw what those people think of you, because you know who you are. And I think that she's been fine handling it well. Like I said, I haven't watched most of it, but she seems like a nice girl. And out of all the stories, I feel like I see a lot of her, a lot of me in that story, more so than the other ones, even though they weren't together for as long as I was with my ex.
Right.
But she seems like she's got her head on pretty straight, and, she's just loves somebody who's made some stupid mistakes.
Now, I have read your Twitter, and the best quote that I've seen recently has come from you. You wrote, "They should make reality shows about people who watch reality shows." And unfortunately, if Elizabeth was here, she would tell you that I am one of those people that could be on a show like that, kind of obsessive about different shows. But what prompted you to think of that and write that?
I think that it's just the way, because don't get me wrong, I watch reality TV, and I actually posted about this yesterday. I watch reality TV, and I have my opinions. But I tell those opinions to my friends. I'll post them on my page and not tag anybody, or I'll go in one of the groups designated for shit-talking of the shows. I would never, ever go to someone's personal page and tag them, comment, send them a message to make sure they knew I didn't like them. I would never go and say, I think you're ugly. I would never say, I think you're fat. I would never say, I think you're stupid, desperate, whatever.
Right.
Because it's mean. And that's why I was saying, I think it's so crazy how these people think that just because we're on TV, we can be bullied. And so I don't even know what triggered me to tweet that, but somebody must have said something to me about something they saw on TV. And, there's like the old saying, and you said it earlier too, oh, they're messaging you from their basement. There's this assumption that anybody who talks shit on the internet is doing it from their basement.
Yep.
But we all know that's not the case.
Yeah.
In reality, they're probably at a restaurant drinking margaritas with a group of friends, and they're still on their phone talking shit to somebody who doesn't deserve it. And I try to take everything in stride, like, okay, you didn't like my storyline and you have a problem with that. Great. Tell me all about it. But to come on my page and say, you're ugly as hell, his new girl's way better, you're fat, it's like, for what? Like, especially when I'm already hurting because I'm going through a breakup, for people to be that evil to say things like that, it just blew my mind. Also on that note, apparently there was a reality TV show called The Couch or something like that about people who watch reality TV.
Oh, really? Oh, I'm going to have to look that up.
Yeah.
I hope that's on YouTube.
Yeah, I have to look it up too.
On one of your social media platforms, it says you are a self-proclaimed bargain shopper. So let's talk something fun here. And do you have tips to share on how you bargain shop?
Yeah, so I'm super cheap when it comes to clothes. Not really shoes, but jeans, pants, tops, whatever. And the reason is because I don't like repeating outfits. So because of that, I don't want to spend a lot on one item that I'm not going to wear often. Jeans I'm a little more flexible on, obviously, because I'll wear them a lot. But I have a rule of thumb that I try to go by. And it's usually I go to Ross, TJ Maxx, and Marshalls for the most part. And then every once in a while I'll go to the mall and hit, Forever 21, H&M, those kind of stores. But for the most part, it's Ross, TJ, and Marshall. And I will say to myself, you will not spend more than $9.99 on a top.
Okay.
You will not spend more than $14.99 on a pair of pants. And you will not spend more than $12.99 on a dress.
Wow.
And I go in there with that mentality. So unless something is just, oh my gosh, I have to have this, I do not spend more than that on each item. And you can get a lot of good stuff. That's why I do my Ross hauls, because people think Ross is like a crappy store, and it's not. It's got so much, and like most of my outfits are from Ross. So I post my outfits and put arrows towards where I got the different items to show people, like, you just got to look.
Yeah.
And it's worth it to save the money. And they have designer stuff at those stores a lot of times too that you can get for cheap. So, Converse are usually like $55. I pay $29.99 at Ross, TJ Maxx, and Marshalls for Converse.
The deals are there. You got to look, right? Because are you just going to clearance racks or?
Well, all of Ross is pretty much a clearance rack.
The whole store. I've not ever been in there, so.
Oh yeah, you got to go. It's like everything. Like the clearance rack is just even cheaper. There's stuff for $4.99.
Okay.
And, like I said, my limit for tops is $9.99 unless it's like, sometimes for like a sweater, like a chunky sweater, I'll pay a little more, especially because it's been getting cold here in Texas. But for the most part, I stick to that, and it saves me money. And that way, for my more staple items that do cost a lot, I will spring for that. But just not for shirts and pants and dresses that I'm not going to wear repetitively.
That's interesting about not repeating outfits and that kind of thing. It's got to be a challenge sometimes to not be looking the same way.
Yeah, I don't know why it bothers me so much, and this is going to sound like a crazy person, but when Garrett was in prison and I would go visit him, I would keep track of my outfits because we would always take a picture. And I wanted to have, variety because obviously our pictures pretty much all look the same since we're standing in front of a prison wall. But I would be like, okay, well, at least I can look cute. He can't because he's in the same outfit every day. But I can look cute. So I would keep track of my outfits so that I would not repeat. And it's like nobody there gave a nobody was going to call me out if I wore the same outfit every weekend.
Right.
But I gave a
Well, that's good.
So, this isn't something new. This is something I've been doing for years and years and years, is just trying to, remember what I wore. And I get on my roommate about it. She'll be like, oh, I want to wear this top. And I'm like, you wore that 3 weeks ago. Let's hold off.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm a little bit psycho about that.
So, Johnna, what do you like to do in your free time?
I love to shop, as we just discussed. That's like my therapy. I hang out with Penelope. And
dog?
then, of course, on the
dog
weekends,
from the show, right?
Yes.
All right.
Yes. And also, while we're on the topic of her,
Yeah.
I got a lot of hate for her being in a kennel. And when we were filming, she was a puppy. She was at a stage where she was biting everything.
And eating everything, I'm sure.
There are wires, expensive equipment. There's stuff I don't even know what it's called on the windows to fix lighting. She would destroy it and not only hurt the equipment, but she could hurt herself. Mm-hmm. So yeah, she was going to be in the kennel. I had no idea that the cameras were going to be focusing in on her in the kennel during those times. It blew my mind. It's like you never know what people are going to focus on in a shot. And I was like, wow, that's what they're noticing? There's a freaking fight going on the couch and people are worried about that Penelope's in a kennel. And I know that when they're watching it, they're not thinking about the fact that there's camera equipment everywhere because you can't see it.
Right.
But it is. It's everywhere. And I'm not going to, while I'm trying to film, be worried about her destroying stuff or destroying herself. So yeah, she was in the kennel. But now we live in Austin. I don't even own a kennel. She's, living her life kennel free, and she is a spoiled brat. She's sitting on my lap right now as I talk to you. I just want people to know that of all of the insults I've gotten, when they call me a bad dog mom is when I get the most offended.
I'm shocked that people even take their time to write that. I mean, it's not the only kennel they've ever sold. People keep their dogs in kennels when they go to work during the day, which is horrible. But doing it for a few hours while you're filming to keep everybody safe and to get the work done, I mean, wow, people have a lot of time on their hands.
It's so wild to me. And then even yesterday, I posted that whole thing about bullying and how, it's just not okay. And some woman has the audacity to comment on there talking about how I was a bad dog mom to the other dog we had and that she doesn't care because if I can't treat the voiceless right, then plain and simple, I deserve what's coming to me. Wow. And I'm like, what are you talking about? That was Garrett's dog.
Wow.
But somehow I'm getting blamed for it. So, people, like you said, they don't have anything better to do. They want to ruffle my feathers, so they comment. And I used to get really upset and clap back at people, but now I just delete and block. And now it's like you can't even hate on me anymore because you can't see my If they were smart, they would just keep their comments to themselves and continue to be able to, be entertained by me if they hate me that much.
Right.
But instead, they're trying to start problems with me, and now I'm going to block you.
Yeah, you're gone. All right. Well,
Yeah.
we were talking about fun things to do. I just had to pick up to make sure that was the same Penelope I was envisioning from the show. So you like to hang out with Penelope?
Yes. And then also I like to go out and drink on the weekends. You know, there's a lot of nightlife here in Austin and also a lot of day drinking. And I like to go out and do that with my friends. It's also a cool way to meet guys. Haven't met any good ones really yet, but, you know, I'm out there trying. And we try to do different things as well, like if there's like different music concerts going on, music concerts as if there's a different kind of concert. Just concerts in general going on. Austin's really popular with live music. You know, the other day we went and played Topgolf. You know, I just like to do things with my friends is basically it. And I'm pretty much down to do whatever with my friends. And now when summer comes up, we'll be going and doing stuff on the lake. So, you know, I like to have a good time, and I'm not really picky about where I have that good time. It's all, for me, it's not where, it's who. Okay. Who am I with? And when you're with the right people, anything's fun.
And what's your drink of choice? What are you ordering at the bar?
So lately I've been switching it up a little bit, and I've been doing Deep Eddy's lemon with soda. Okay. So I used to just do vodka soda, but now I do the Deep Eddy's lemon because it tastes more like lemonade.
Have you ever been axe throwing at a bar? Do they have those in Austin?
I have not been, but I've seen it, and I've actually told people, like, oh, I want to go there and do that. And a couple of my friends have gone. So it's definitely on my list of things to do, but not at a bar. I don't think they have it at bars. That might be dangerous.
Oh, see, here we're in Wisconsin, so they do have axe throwing at a bar. It's very controlled. I talked about it on an earlier episode, but you do seem like the kind of lady that would enjoy taking out some aggression and throwing some axes and throwing down some cocktails at the same time. So it's worth checking out if you find one.
Yeah, no, I mean, I definitely know they have them here. That'd be a cool idea for a date, too.
Yeah. Well, I want to thank you so much, Johnna, for being on the show and sharing your story. You've cleared up a lot of things that even I didn't even know to ask, just to make sure that people get the real story. And I think that was very admirable for you to share all of those details that, you know, honestly, it's none of anybody's business. But since your business got put out there, at least we have the real story.
Yeah, and for me, it's not so much like, I don't care if people don't like me, as long as they don't like me for me. You know, I hate when things are twisted and there's like this perception of me that isn't fully who I am, and that people judge me only on that.
And those are just
I like to
glimpses.
clear things up.
Yeah, a glimpse into a time of your life that was months past by the time we even saw it. So I'm always fascinated that people get so worked up about stuff that's already been changed by the time they get a chance to see it.
And the worst is the ones that just started watching season 2, and now they're like, ooh, there's a season 1. So now we're at 2 years later,
right,
and I'm getting people harassing me about what Penelope's doing and saying, you know, passive comments like, oh, I hope she's not in the kennel as much anymore.
Oh, man.
I'm like, okay. Or the ones that really get me are like, oh, I hope you're not dating any more inmates. It almost makes me want to go date another inmate and show everybody. Like, nope, here I am making the same stupid mistake.
Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't go that.
No, I'm not.
Don't go off
that.
the deep end that far.
I guess what I hate is that people. That's the one thing about being on the show that sucks the most for me, is that people aren't seeing me as a person who is, you know, in a relationship with someone they loved. They see me as a person who fell for an inmate's lies and was played. So instead of just saying, oh, I hope you don't date another loser, or I hope you don't date another guy that treats you bad, they just say, I hope you don't date another inmate. And that bothers me because I have friends who dated an inmate, they got out, and they didn't betray them the way that Garrett did me. So I wish it could just be more of a don't date losers,
right,
not a don't date inmates or convicts or felons, because not all of them are bad people that, you know, screw over the people that love them.
So if you could go back in time before Love After Lockup, would you pass on that opportunity now, knowing what you do know now?
Yes. And I say that because even though I've gotten a lot of opportunities, I feel like if I was meant to have these opportunities, it could have came from a different show that didn't have to do with prison. With Love After Lockup, I now have this baggage that a lot of guys aren't interested in. I gave my ex and his new girlfriend a platform to bash me on, which obviously hasn't happened in a long time, thank the Lord. And it just has caused me more stress than anything. But at the same time, I am grateful for the opportunities that have come from it, because I don't think I would have been able to move to Austin and start a new life without Love After Lockup. And Sharp and WETV have both been, you know, I don't even know the word for it, but they've dealt with me, I guess is what I could say. I'm a handful, okay. And they have dealt with me the best that they could, you know, with all of my issues that I have. And I appreciate that, because I know that I'm a lot. So.
Well, it's funny. I think they've had their hands full with pretty much the whole entire cast of season 1 and 2 of that show. But my dealings with Sharp has, you know, working on these interviews has really been awesome. I mean, they've been very helpful. And I don't know if I'll add this in or not, but like last week, you know, they took out questions that I could not ask because it was a current season in progress. They let me leave enough in where it was interesting. So, you know, they could have just said, you know, it's a current season, you can't have her until after. Yeah, but they didn't. So
yeah, and I think that's super awesome of them to do that, because, you know, at one point they were telling me and Mary, like, no, you can't do anything. And, you know, I felt bad, but then I ended up getting an opportunity with Juicy Scoop, Heather McDonald, and they let me do that one, and then they've let me do yours. I'm grateful that they're allowing me to do so.
Johnna, where can we continue to follow your journey on social media?
My Instagram is Vajonna. That's with 4 A's, and that's VAJOHNNAAAAA.
Okay.
And then my Twitter is Vajonna, but the O is a 0, and there's only 1 A.
My thanks to Johnna Digrigoli for coming on the show this week. It's never easy for a guest to come on the show and tell their story. But one thing that Elizabeth and I have always prided ourselves on is the ability for you to come on the show and talk about some hard stuff. I steal the line from Dr. Phil. This is a safe place to talk about hard things. But really it is, because it's a very low-pressure way to get your story out there. Now, I did reach out to Tracy and Clint from Love After Lockup to join us on the show. Unfortunately, because we don't pay our guests, they are not going to join us on the show. If they change their mind, which I hope they do, they are welcome here anytime. I know they have faced some harsh criticism online, and it would have been nice if they came on the show to clear things up and address their fans, but it looks like they've chosen to stay silent on that. We encourage you to follow us on social media, on Twitter at Fancounters Live. But our newest thing is we launched this group on Facebook called Sharpie Nation. If you search for Sharpie Nation, you'll find our private group, and you can request to join and join us there, where Elizabeth and I discuss all of our episodes, and you get some inside information before anybody else. So that's one reason why you'd want to join the group. You can also email us if you have any guests that you want to have on the show. Send us an email to hello@fancounters.com, and we will try and get that guest on the show. If we do, we will contact you and let you ask some questions to that guest. How about that? What other podcast brings you right to the celebrity of your choice? And you can do that with just one email. Lastly, if you love the show like we hope you do, Elizabeth and I would ask that you go to patreon.com/fancounters and donate some money to the show. It helps us keep things running smoothly, and we greatly appreciate any support you're willing to give our podcast. We've got another great celebrity guest next week, and we hope you tune in. Our shows drop every Friday morning about 6 a.m. Central, and you can get those on any well, you already know, you're already listening. So until then, we hope to hear from you this week. If we don't, we'll talk to you next Friday. Bye-bye.
This was a podcast from the PodFix Network. You can check out more shows like it at podfixnetwork.com.